AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show. The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Buddy Ray.
Welcome to it, race fans. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. That is karting with a K. We open up the show today with two sad stories. We lost a matriarch in the NASCAR world, Linda Petty, wife to iconic driver Richard Petty, and locally we lost Speedy, the very well-known fire official, right, buddy?
Yeah, he was Speedy on the safety crew. He trained a lot of the track personnel. He's been out at I-80, Sunset, Mid-Nebraska way back in the day, Eagle Raceway. He's touched so many people. We'll be going into that here in a little bit later when we got Father Joe on, and then we got Linda Petty, like you said, the matriarch of the Petty family. Huge name in the NASCAR world. She also
known as the first lady of racing.
Pretty much.
She was not just a wife and a support structure, but she was the quintessential support structure when it came to a family life in the world of NASCAR. Just in case you wanted to get some information on Carol L. Speedy Hill, who passed away earlier this week, go to our Facebook page on the Front Stretch Facebook page. We posted about the funeral services, which the visitation was yesterday. Funeral services are being held today at St. Matthew Lutheran Church at 2 p.m. So you can go to our Facebook page. The family also requested some special information there, which, like you said, we'll talk about a little bit more when we get into the show. We have a big show lined up for you today. Quite frankly, I think we've had some really good shows at the beginning of the year, but I think today we topped them all. I'm kind of proud of today's show. I think I'm very proud of today's show.
Well, I'm glad to be here with you every week.
You've helped out a lot. It's what's your name again?
I don't know.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cricket's chirping.
Turn number one, we're going to talk about Auto Club Speedway, and oh my God, just when I think racing can't get better from last week,
wow,
we go to Auto Club, and they absolutely tenfold it. Turn two, we'll talk with Joe Kosiski at I-80 Speedway and Kosiski Auto Parts about the Spring Meltdown coming up this Friday and Saturday.
Followed by the Bud Eater Bash.
The Bug Eater Bash, or as now Buddy is calling it, the Bud Eater Bash.
The Bud Eater Bash.
The following weekend. Yep. In turn number three, this is probably one of the bigger interviews. Do you think maybe one of the bigger interviews? Not really as far as the everyday listener is concerned, but as far as inside media we're concerned, this is a big interview for us.
Absolutely.
We had Jeff Striegel on a lot last year, and he did a fantastic job. But Bob Pockrass joins us from the Sporting News to talk TV ratings. We're perplexed.
What do you think? You think I should? Well, we're going to talk TV ratings, but I want to ask him if him and Kurt Busch have kissed and made up.
I don't know. Maybe we should just leave that.
Yeah, just leave that alone.
Let it go. Kurt has turned a new leaf, and we'll just let it go. Turn four, we'll preview Martinsville Speedway and all the action that's going to go on there. So let's get into it. Auto Club Speedway. Bud, first and foremost, did you get to see the race?
I get to see a lot of it, and I was rooting for my guy Logano, and he went Logano to the back. So
you didn't listen to me. Well, he started Logano from the back.
Yeah, well, he started, I believe, 22nd. He was moving up pretty fast through the field, got up to about fourth or third, and then he fell back with tire issues.
No, he qualified seventh, but he had to start 42nd, 41st.
But he actually made it all the way up to third or fourth.
Yeah,
actually, I think he was almost in the contention to lead the race, and I got pretty excited, and it was kind of funny. I left Joe's Karting. I went home, about a mile. I walked into my house, and Harley, my crew chief, goes, "You ain't going to like this." I go, "What's wrong?" Logano's not up there now. I was like, "Where'd he go?" He's in 41st. I'm like, "What?" But the racing was amazing. Yeah. You called it. We will put this on record one time. You called it.
I'm not
3 and 4 wide. We saw 3 and 4 wide. These guys are getting after it.
You apparently didn't see the Twitter picture of the 8 wide restart.
No, that I didn't.
8. Listen. 8 freaking wide restart. It was a hornet's nest. There were cars dashing, going everywhere. I mean, they took up every inch of real estate on that track.
Here's the problem with that, though. It's exciting to watch, and it's fun to watch, and we want to see this every week.
Yeah.
But now last year, we had mentioned over several races that the racing, was like spread out, single file, like mundane. So if that happens, and it's going to come, but when that happens after the last 2 weeks of incredible racing, it's going to look tenfold that much more boring.
Yeah.
And when TV is already struggling to get the ratings, is this going to have a detrimental effect?
I think this is a deep conversation that we can get into. We don't have much time. We want to obviously save as much time as we can for Joe Kosiski and Bob Pockrass, who are coming up in turns 2 and 3. But I honestly think that Auto Club Speedway provides for some great racing. But the changes NASCAR made in the offseason, every driver is saying the same thing. There is very little aero push now, and it makes it much easier to suck up on that driver and to get past it, because before you would get about right up on the bumper, and there'd be this wall of air. You couldn't pass them anymore. And we saw that a lot at the 1.5 miles. And NASCAR in the offseason with these changes specifically looked at the intermediate tracks. And Auto Club's a 2-mile track, but it's a very wide 2-mile track that you watched the Nationwide Series race on last Saturday. Holy cow, was there passing. And I'm going to I'll look up the stats, but I believe there was 35 lead changes. And I don't think many of those are junk numbers. I think those are legitimate numbers. This wasn't somebody coming down pit road and another person staying out on a green flag run. We know there wasn't many green flag pit stops. They were blowing tires right at about 16, 17 laps on a set of tires, and so then there was cars spinning, debris on the track. Caution had to come out, which gave us exactly what we were looking for, which was 4, 5, 6, 7, at times 8 wide restarts in some of the best racing we've seen all year long. But these tires, the topic is the tires, and I saw it on Monday morning. There's always the haters of people who are talking about how bad Goodyear is and how they really screwed up. I just want to point out, and I want to defend Goodyear, because I think, if it's Goodyear's fault, we'll stick it to Goodyear. But I think this is everybody's fault. Goodyear came to the track with the exact same tire that they had last year. Did we have that many tires blow out last year at Auto Club?
No.
Not a chance. Not even close. The aerodynamic package change gave it more downforce, which put more pressure on the tire. Bigger rear spoiler gave them more pressure on the tire.
But this is the first time we've been back to the track, so, as far as Goodyear's concerned,
why change the tire?
Why change a tire? Absolutely.
We had great racing last year.
So then you got to go back to the race team and go, well, you guys are getting a little over-aggressive with your tire pressures and whatnot. And, when they get the tires for these teams, Goodyear tells them, we learned this at Kansas last year, they tell them, what air pressure range to run these things.
Sometimes NASCAR mandates a tire pressure. Sometimes they recommend. Auto Club is a recommended tire pressure of 22 pounds in the left rear and 20 pounds in the front left. A lot of teams were running 17 pounds. One team was actually running 11 pounds to the 22 recommended for the left rear.
Wow.
Some teams were running, most teams settled in that 17 to 18 pounds for the left rear, and the same thing for the front left. And that's, and with the added tire pressure from the added downforce, those tires were just blowing left and right.
What's causing that to happen is that imagine you're taking a tire off your Ranger and the tire says, well, Dan, you got to inflate me to 32 pounds. And you start running at 20, you're running basically a half-flat tire. Well, that flat tire actually creates heat. And as that creates heat, that's
friction
what blows.
Melts. Yeah, and those sidewalls aren't near as thick. They're not near as thick as the under part of it. So, your consumer tire, we all learned this years ago with Ford. The reason why those tires were blowing and these cars were rolling was because people weren't paying attention to tire pressures. You're recommended to run at 35 pounds on your consumer vehicle. 35 to 40 pounds is recommended. If the tire pressure drops below, I think it's 30 on my truck, I get a sensor reading that says tire pressure is low.
Yeah, they don't put that sensor reading in there. Just go ding, ding to get your attention.
It's not just to annoy you. It's there to save you. So there was a lot of factors that went into those tire pressures and those tires being blown. There was no way after practice on Friday and Saturday that Goodyear could have done anything about the tire. Because they couldn't have had anything brought in time.
Yeah.
And there would need to be testing done. It would have been ridiculous. So NASCAR and Goodyear said, you run 22 pounds or it's on you. And guess what? They didn't. And it's on them. NASCAR also opened up the camber rules. They were allowed to add more camber to the tires, which meant instead of running on the flat of the tire, you're running more on the sidewall, which gives you more grip and more the more drivability in the car.
The problem is that the sidewall's thinner than the bottom of the tire, so guess what?
And Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canal said it all. When Jimmy blew his tire, Jimmy came over the radio and said, I can't believe these tires can't hold together. Chad said, I know, but buddy, it's on us. It's all our setup. Oh my God, somebody accepting responsibility for screwing up. Holy cow. So I'm defending Goodyear to the nth degree. Let's talk about top 10 at Auto Club Speedway. I'm really shocked at a lot of these guys that are in the top 10 because these aren't guys we normally see in the top 10. Just quit it. Just stop it right there.
You know right where I'm heading.
Carl Edwards started 9th, got himself a top 10 finish. Paul Menard.
Okay, I see Paul Menard being a top 10 kind of guy. Not every week, but it's not shocking to see him running a top 10.
How about AJ Allmendinger? Talented driver at a underfunded team in the 47 at I would JTG
say,
Racing.
In this race, yes.
Brian Vickers.
No.
It's a little shocking to me to see him up there just simply because he's just coming off and he's on his first full season in a long time. Jamie McMurray.
No.
You're not shocked?
No. He's a top 10 kind of guy.
You're so full of crap right now. Just stop it. You're on your high. Be realistic. You're honestly surprised that a man who hasn't finished inside the top 20 in points in the last 6 years.
Just because you're not top 20 in points doesn't mean you can't finish top 10 from time to time.
I'm just shocked that I'm not. It's no bash against their talent level. I think Jamie's a talented driver. And I think Paul's a talented. I think he's a driver talented. I'm just surprised to see him up there. Tony Stewart, 2 weeks in a row we've seen him up in the front. He got himself a top 5 finish. Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch, and Kyle Busch ends up getting the win.
Where's Young Money?
We don't have time.
Young Money?
We got to move on. We're running out of time in this turn.
Kyle Larson.
We seriously are running out of time. I wish we had more time to talk about this. This wasn't something I planned. I got on us. I wanted to get into this more, but we need to get on to the next turn. He should have won that race.
Yes, he should have.
Had the car.
Had he won, he'd been in the chase, and I'd been telling you all season.
But you're still not right.
Hey, we got lots of racing
And I want
left.
to go ahead and defend myself one more time because you seem to think that my criticism is on him. I want to say it one more time, which I have had to repeat 5,000 times on this show. My disagreement is not with his talent level. I think he is an incredibly talented person. My worry was with bringing him up too soon and let me finish. And ruining him like Joe Gibbs Racing almost did with Joey Logano. And my doubt is with his organization.
All I hear is you telling me, I don't think he's going to be a chase. And I'm telling you, he'll be in the chase this year, and he'll be in the chase.
I still don't think he'll be in the chase because it's a long season. But a long season can become
I want you to listen to a sound, and I want you to study the sound, and I want you to understand what the sound is.
We got to move on. Top 10 in points, Joey Logano. Austin Dillon. How about Austin Dillon?
Yeah.
Running for Rookie of the Year. Right now, Kyle Larson is leading because it takes your best 17 finishes, I believe, or 22 finishes, and that calculates who wins Rookie of the Year. Right now, Kyle Larson is winning, but Austin Dillon is up there, and he's gaining positions. It's not like he had a good finish at Daytona, and he's able to maintain it.
Who do you see winning Rookie of the Year real quick?
Kyle Larson.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see Kyle Larson winning Rookie of the Year. Ryan Newman, 8th. Kyle Busch, 7th. Jimmy Johnson, 6th. Matt Kenseth, 5th. Brad Keselowski, 4th. Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Carl Edwards all round out your top 3. Dang it, we got so much to talk about. We'll have to try to cover it next week. We got to move on. Turn number 2, just around the corner. Joe Kosiski is going to join us to talk dirt track racing. It's all coming up here on the front stretch.
This is Andrew from Kosiski Auto Parts. Kosiski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kosiski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kosiski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kosiski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
On to turn number 2 here on the front stretch, presented by Kosiski Auto Parts. KosiskiAutoparts.com or 51st and I Street. To heck with the internet, to heck with social media, to heck with the phone. Just go down there and meet somebody in person. Put an eyeball on somebody. Tell them what make and model you've got and get the part at an affordable price. They'll walk right out to their salvage yard, pick up the part that you need, and they'll get it for you the right time. I was telling this story a couple of weeks ago. Once again, I went into the auto parts store. I asked for some brakes for my truck. Got the wrong brakes. Happened again. And there's nothing you can do. When you've got the pads off, you're pretty much stuck. So I had to put everything back together, drive back down. Oh.
Make sure you let them know that wasn't Kosiski Auto Parts. You got the wrong pads from.
I went to the auto parts store. I didn't go to Kosiski. And let me ask you that. Do you guys have... Could you guys pull brake pads off?
No, you don't want to use used brake pads.
Okay.
We do sell used rotors. We do sell used brake drums, things like that, but not used brake pads. You have to get them from the auto parts store.
Well, funny thing about Andrew, I went down there last week. And we've been mentioning here on the show, he's getting busier and busier. Everybody go down and see Andrew. I went down there last week. He had a stack of towels on the counter, and I go, wow, what's all the towels for, Andrew? And he goes, you guys have been talking about Kosiski Auto Parts and coming down and seeing me. He's like, I'm sweating, sweating like no other, so I got to have all these towels, quit. He's like, I'm too busy.
Father Joe here is loving the fact that we're keeping that guy busy.
I mean, look at Father Joe here. He got a new haircut.
Let me just tell you, when it comes to renewing your contract with the front stretch, all of it was because of us. We've done all this.
I understand what you're trying to get at.
Joe Kosiski.
I keep seeing dollar signs ringing up in you guys' eyeballs here.
We won't raise the price on you too much.
Yeah. What's a couple commas and a few decimals?
What's the big deal? We're talking with Joe Kosiski, owner of Kosiski Auto Parts, and obviously the man behind everything that happens out at I-80 Speedway. And I say that, but you've got a great team behind you guys that does some fantastic work. Big schedule lined up for you this year. I'm getting so excited about it. It's race season is just about here. We're weeks away from it, and the spring meltdown is just around the corner. But before we got into that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about an unfortunate passing this week. Speedy passed away, a fireman at Sunset Speedway, and then just a big supporter and big figure in the racing community.
Speedy, I can remember years ago, used to be out at Grand Island Speedway, out at the Donovan Speedway in Grand Island. Every weekend. Then he was at Sunset Speedway. He moved from Sunset when they closed up to I-80 Speedway. He was there for about 3 or 4 years, and then he went down to Eagle Raceway. And it wasn't Speedy, it was his crew. Speedy was the head of it, but I mean his whole crew, his wife Linda, he had a son Cam and Mike, and some of the guys, Gator used to be on his crew with him. He had a great crew, and he taught them well. And I think all of us hope that what we've got today can almost equal Speedy, but it probably doesn't. Speedy was one heck of a good fire guy.
Speedy was... Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but didn't Speedy actually, over the course of all these years, he trained a lot of even other track personnel?
Yes, he did.
He educated them. He came in. Honestly, he saved a lot of drivers' lives. He helped a lot of people, a lot of promoters. There's nothing you can say negative about Speedy.
Well, he touched a lot of the drivers' lives, you know what I mean, because what he did do, and he was around enough with all the racetracks, and like I said, he went from track to track, so he did help teach a lot of the guys. He actually worked in Indy back in, I want to say it was probably late 70s. He worked at Indy for the Indy 500. So, I mean, wow. Speedy was really good. He was well known around the area, well liked around the area. There was some people that didn't care for him, but that's everybody.
There's people that don't like me.
Oh, come on, buddy. They all like you. I was just going to say they don't like me sometimes, but you ain't a promoter of a racetrack. All you got to do is be a promoter, and you're not liked.
Well, yeah.
I think it's because of his ties to Joe's Karting. People don't like him. There
you go.
They're tired of him throwing the black flag, including me. Okay, that wall was in my way. You didn't need to black flag me for that, but we'll talk about that.
I feel sorry for the wall.
I did hit it pretty hard. I had the bolts came out, too, and everything. I couldn't believe I pulled the bolts out.
After you hit the wall, I had Speedy come over and tell me what I could do to fix the track.
Joe, do you got one story you could share with us about Speedy? I know there's this community is so full of just great stories and history. Is there one story you could put your finger on and say I had a funny story with him, or Is there just too many to tell?
Speedy was always one of those guys that was always laughing, always kidding. It's hard to just pick out one story. As a kid, he used to quack like Donald Duck, and he always teased all the kids. So everybody, he would walk around there and talking to the kids, and he always had a lot of fun when he was there. But he was very serious on the other side. As soon as business was happening, Speedy was serious. Before that, he was.
He was a big guy, and his personality was just as big as he was. Larger than life.
Yeah.
Like I said, never had a bad word to say to anybody or anything. And like you said, Joe, earlier, he touched everybody in some sort of way or shape or whatever. Even the fans in the stands knew who Speedy was.
Well, he walked up to me one time, and he looked at my race car, and he says, "I'm going to tell you what, you better fix it or you're not racing it." And I kind of looked at him like, what's wrong with it, But he always had a reason. He always found the reason, and he would come up to you and, explain it to you, and he took care of a lot of people, from the seat belts to all the safety aspects. He done a great job.
Viewing was yesterday at West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home. The funeral services are today at St. Matthew Lutheran Church at 2 p.m. And the Hill family wants everyone to come down. I was really kind of impressed with this. That said, those of you who knew Speedy know that he was not a suit and tie kind of guy. Speedy's favorite clothing was his Nomax fire suit and a pair of gloves. He was in his element and the happiest when he was working at a racetrack in a fire scene or a similar of public services. He made it quite clear before his passing that he did not want to peek out from his casket and see a group of people wearing suits and ties and shedding tears over his passing. So they've requested that you just show up in your everyday attire and come with smiles and share stories.
So did he use that fire suit when he went to bed and sleep in it for his pajamas, I wonder? Something the family's not telling us here.
Yeah.
So those funeral services are today at 2 p.m. at St. Matthew Lutheran Church. If you want more details, we posted about it on the Front Stretch Facebook page. You can get more details pretty much anywhere on Facebook. It's all over the place. The community is really coming together to help out. Turn the page a little bit. Racing season just around the corner. The weather is turning nice. It's absolutely gorgeous out today. I have got the grill out, ready to go. It's clean, and I've got some steaks I'm ready to get going.
What time's dinner? Me and Joe are coming over.
I don't know if I have enough steaks now. Joe's got to get ready for his big race coming up, the Spring Meltdown. You got a two-day race coming up.
This Friday and Saturday, we start out with practice on Thursday. Practice is open to all classes, so if they want to come out and practice on Thursday night, they're welcome to it. Friday night starts out, we run 3 classes each night, so we're hoping for a nice, easy show. Very good classes, though. We got the ASCS 360s, the Corn Belt Clash MLRA late models, and the A-mods. Now, I know a lot of the guys' buddy might show up with his B-mod. He'll probably make the race because I'm not hearing a lot of action on the A-mod car count right now. Last year we had, I want to say, 22. So I'm hoping some of those guys come out and run against the A-mods and get their practice in on Friday.
I might bring my B-mod out, but I'm not good enough to run with them. Maybe I'll talk to Joe and see if I can use my B-mod as a pace car.
Be the first time the pace car hits the wall.
There you go.
Wow.
Now Durst Motorsports has come on board for that 2 days.
Yeah.
And anybody who wins the 2 days, if they win their class both days, the A-mods, the super late models, or the ASCS 360 sprints, if anybody wins both days, there's a $2,500 bonus on top of what they've already won. So that would be $7,500 to win either one, the sprint cars or the super late models, and it would be $5,000 if you won both of them in the A-mods.
And pits on Friday open up at 4 o'clock, grandstands at 5:30, racing 7:15-ish.
Racing should be at 7:15 on Friday, and I believe 5:55 on Saturday.
Joe, quick question. You show up this Friday and Saturday, concrete pit stalls. I know a lot of drivers when I get there. This is not a sanctioned show, but on the concrete pit stalls, is that going to be a first come, first serve, or what do you want to do with that?
I got a little problem there because for the safety of all the racers, I try to get the sprint cars down in turn 1 and 2.
Okay.
So I've got to I have to hold about half the pit stalls for the sprint cars, and then the late models, the fans really come to. I shouldn't say just the late models or the sprint cars, because they do come to watch the A-mods. I mean, this is a terrific show this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll be moving them around the best I can, but yes, it will still be a first come, first serve, but I won't fill it up on the front stretch with just A-mods, or I won't fill it up on the front stretch with just sprint cars. I want a mix of all of it.
And then Saturday is the second day of the show. Looks like MLRA, CBC will be back, the super late models, ASCS sprints, and non-sanctioned A's again.
It's same exact show,
Same show,
both nights.
2 nights in a row.
Pays a little more money on Saturday night for the winners of the A-mods and the late models. The sprint cars is the same, $2,500 to win each night. That's how we got the bonus for the $2,500 to win both nights for all three classes, because Phil Durst says, hey, I was going to do this for the sprint cars. I'd put the $2,500 up, and I got talking to him. I go, you're going to make all the late model and A-mod guys mad at me, aren't you? And he says, well... He says, let's just do it. If anybody wins in any one of the three, he says, we'll just add $2,500 to their deal. So we done all the advertising, put some coupons out where they have to go into his store and get a $5 off coupon for the race. So a fan that wants to go to Lincoln, they can. In Lincoln, we put him in the newspaper, and we paid for the ad to help him out. He's given $100 off a car if anybody comes and buys a car from him at Durst Motorplex. So
do you have any coupons floating around in Omaha?
I do not have any floating around in Omaha.
Weather's always the big question, but it looks like, again, this is weather, so...
You mentioned the R word. We're going to stop a mud hole in your butt.
Nope. It looks like it's going to be nice. There isn't a chance of the R word happening. No chance so far. That could change, but it looks like it's going to be decent April weather. It's going to be mid-50s, maybe into the 60s. And man, I tell you, a busy guy. He's got people blowing his phone up. Talking to Joe Kosiski of I-80 Speedway, I-80Speedway.com for ticket information and gate times, pit times, all sorts of stuff. The Spring Meltdown happening this weekend. Did you guys make any major changes to I-80 in the offseason? Or
we haven't. We bought a new scoreboard that was supposed to be in, and I wanted it in, and they sent us from Daktronics latter part of last week. They sent in and said that we will not be receiving it until April 9th or 12th, somewhere in that time frame. So it's not going to be up for this first weekend.
I was just going to say April 11th and 12th. Not, if you miss this special, you don't want to miss this weekend, but the following weekend you got another special.
Yeah. The Bug Eater Bash.
Yeah, the Bug Eater Bash.
Well, the Bug Eater Bash is for all my guys that come and race.
Did you say Bug Eater or Bud Beater?
Well, if you go out there to be mod, you'll probably be a Bud Beater. If you're out there in any other class, it'll be the Bug Eater. But we run the Cornhusker Classic at the end of the year, and of course the Cornhuskers used to be the Bug Eaters, so we decided to have the Bug Eater Bash at the beginning of the year, and that's kind of where the name comes from.
The one special that's already been talked about this year, now this is not counting the Silver Dollar Nationals. That's coming up, biggest race in Nebraska history. The Fall Brawl.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. $50,000 bonus.
Yep.
People are already talking about the Fall Brawl, and we haven't even started racing yet.
People have been talking about this since the second you guys announced it.
Now, you sit down and take, for a 360 sprint car, $58,000 plus lap money. It'll be over $60,000 they can win in 2 days. That is absolutely the most money they race for in a weekend right now.
Yeah.
Of any place they go to. So it should. I really believe some of the 410 guys might put a 360 in and be at that race.
We talked to Jack Dover last weekend, and he said that he expects several of the World of Outlaw guys to put a 360 in their car.
He says, I did ask him conservatively, what do you think car count? He goes, right now, and we haven't even started racing. Really, none of us. Conservatively, 60 sprint cars. He's like, it could be the biggest sprint car race I-80's ever had.
Do you need the Ranger out there to be a push truck?
Yeah. Now,
I'm going to bring my Dodge.
You sit down with all them sprint cars, and then I believe on Saturday night, the SLMR series is with it on that weekend.
Yeah.
So, that tops it off, and then I believe it's the A-Mods run with them on Friday night.
Speaking of the SLMR, how's that coming along this year so far?
The SLMR series got a great schedule coming along this year. We're going to a couple of new venues this year again.
What venues? Do you know?
We're going to Denison, Crawford County Speedway up at Denison during their fair this year.
Oh, yeah.
We're going back to McCool Junction. We're going back to Eagle. We're going back to Albion and Norfolk and the Little Track Raceway Park up in Sioux City. Adams County Speedway.
That little, hold on. That little dinky cereal bowl of a track in Sioux City.
Hey, you ought to see late models on that.
That's going to be a riot.
It's a riot.
I remember you talking to me about that race last year, and you were kind of worried about it because it was such a small track. But you said, Dan, that race was one of the best races we put on all year long.
Didn't Josh Most win that?
Josh Most won. That race has went on, I want to say 2 years or 3 years now. I believe Corey Zeitner, if I recall right, won it last year. Okay. Josh Most, I think, won it the year before. And I could be wrong. Maybe Josh won it last year.
But here, the reason why I bring up Josh Most, he was on IMCA tires. He had an IMCA car, and everybody thinks that when you want to go run the SLMR, you got to have these big, super high dollar, $100,000 late models, and that's not the case. He took a $12,000 late model, and he won.
Well, let's go from there, and let's go back. Jesse Sobbing went down to Beatrice in the SLMR series and run second with the 602 crate motor. So it's a $3,200 motor, brand new from GM. So, you know, it's got a good group of guys. We get back out to Lexington, Nebraska, and then, of course, we have 3 shows at I-80. We won't be back to Harlan, Iowa this year. Harlan did not reschedule with us. Beatrice did not reschedule with us. I don't remember who else there is, but I mean, it's got a good schedule.
Andrew's going to be in the SLMR.
Andrew will run the SLMR
when he's not selling fenders to Ford Rangers to owners like Dan.
You know what? You know what's really funny about Andrew? The poor kid. He gets these people calling for their parts, and they'll be saying, "Hey, you're coming up here to Norfolk tonight, or tomorrow, or this weekend. Would you bring this part with me?" And he's there trying to pay attention to his race car, and they're unloading transmissions and they're unloading parts. Out to Lexington, Nebraska, and places like that. But that's all right. That's part of the job.
The part of the service that you guys provide.
Right.
We don't talk about that, frankly, enough, that there is a delivery service available.
You bet.
Much like not much like a lot of other places don't deliver parts like that. So it's a great service.
One of these days, you got to talk to Father Joe here and let Father Joe take you. When you gave me that tour, that was just awe-dropping of everything.
Of the salvage yard?
Yeah, of the entire operation. That was
how
cool.
it actually mechanically works is what's amazing about it.
Well, that'd be neat.
It's not just you think you go park a car out in the lot and people going to come and buy the parts off it. I mean, there's a lot of mechanics to the way we do our salvage business. And, I mean, it from start to finish, it's tested parts.
Yep.
They're ready to go. The ones that we want ready to go that we know are going to have a sale value right away.
Yeah.
Then the car's parked. We don't have no cars sitting in our lot with engines and transmissions in it. So the EPA people aren't on us because we're not leaking fluids all over. And I mean,
your lot is really clean.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be reduce and recycle. When you get into a business and you want to call it green, it means we're coming up into April and, kind of a green month. Our business, out of 10 cars, everything will be recycled down to about a garbage can full.
Wow.
Out of 10 complete vehicles. Otherwise, everything else is recycled.
Wow, that's great. I'm kind of an environmentalist. I love hearing that.
I can tell you what Andrew's doing with what's left in that trash can.
Let's quit picking on
it. He's melting it down and making lead for his race car.
No, there's no lead left. The lead sells for too much. He doesn't get that part.
Spring Meltdown. We're just 5 days away. Friday, April 4th, just coming up this Friday. MLRA, CBC, the Corn Belt Classic, Super Late Models, Corn Belt Clash.
Yes.
Super Late Models, ASCS Midwest Sprints, non-sanctioned A's. Same classes will come back on Saturday night. Gates on Friday at 5:30. Racing starts at about 7:15, and then Gates on Saturday will be about 4:30. Racing at 5:55. I-80Speedway.com for all ticket information, or head down to 51st and I Street to get them in advance, or pick them up at the window.
They can buy tickets online this year.
Oh, great! That's great.
For all the races, we're having our tickets online, so they can buy them ahead of time when they've got the money. And don't forget to go to Durst Motorplex down in Lincoln and pick up your $5 off coupons that you can use at the gate.
One last quick question: when your weekly show kicks off this year in 2014, and I could be wrong, so please correct me if I am here, but do you do a group discount? Let's say you got 20, 25 people. You got a company wanting to come out for a weekly show on a Friday.
We do group discounts.
I thought you did.
Long. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, we do a lot of group discounts.
But the important thing is to call in advance. Don't show up.
Don't show up and say, I got 25 people here, and I want to get my discount that I heard about. No, call the office.
That's when you're like, great, break out your checkbook.
Yeah,
I got to eat.
Yeah, there you go.
I-80Speedway.com in Greenwood, Nebraska, just off exit 420 on I-80. Joe, we always do appreciate your time.
Not a problem. I love coming out.
We'll be right back in turn number 2 to talk to Bob Pockrass of the Sporting News to talk about TV ratings for NASCAR. We'll be right back. This is The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
At Quaker Steak and Lube, we're famous for 18 flavors of incredible wings, voted best wings in the USA. But ooh, baby, there's so much more. Ribs, steaks, burgers, specialty drinks, and drafts, all served up on a platter full of fun. Every night is hot at the Lube, and every Tuesday is all-you-can-eat wing night.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Time to grab another tear-off and make your move. We're headed into turn 3 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
Heading into turn number 3 here on the front stretch, brought to you by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. We're joined by Bob Pockrass of thesportingnews.com. Bob, appreciate you taking your time out of your day to have a little chit-chat with us.
I appreciate you all having me on.
Bob, I wanted to talk to you primarily today because I've been seeing a consistent trend, to my shock and dismay, that there has been a steady decline with the year-over-year for every race this year so far. Auto Club saw a decline, Phoenix, Daytona. Can you give us any insight as to why we're seeing this decline?
I think a lot of people are scratching their heads on why the decline in TV ratings. Obviously, for Daytona and Bristol, it was weather, at least partly. So, you throw those two out, and then you have the other three. And, you would think with Dale Earnhardt Jr. win the Daytona 500, with Austin Dillon bringing back the 3 and the new aero rules, that people would be pretty juiced. But, it hasn't shown in the numbers, So what could it be? Well, maybe some people were maybe disenfranchised with kind of seeing Jimmy Johnson win again, or maybe maybe there's not as much excitement about the car this year compared to last year when they debuted the Gen 6 car, and then maybe there isn't as much excitement or curiosity around Danica Patrick, and now in her second year in Cup. So, and then you also have to take into consideration some other factors. I don't remember what was the Sunday NCAA slate last year compared to this year for California. So, that also has an effect. I think the important thing for NASCAR and what they see that they still like is that it appears that for the most part, obviously not this past weekend, but for the most part, they're still winning that time slot. And when you win your time slot, a lot of times that's what's important, because if you want people to advertise on your broadcast, you can still say, well, you're going to reach more eyeballs if you come with us than with anybody else.
And I was kind of looking at some of the rating comparisons. I know that we talked about, or there was a story that NASCAR was okay with Fox moving the Bristol broadcast to Fox Sports 1, and I believe on a ratings basis, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that Fox Sports 1 or the NASCAR broadcast was pretty comparable to what Fox ended up broadcasting through Family Guy, Simpsons, was it Bob's Burger, and their regular programming. It
was close, and but obviously it was a lot less than there would be in the middle of a Sunday afternoon, and but you can't really do anything about the weather. And once it got to 7 p.m. on that night at Bristol, Fox had the option to move that race to Fox Sports 1, and that's what they did.
Bob, this is Buddy Ray here on the front stretch. I bought this NASCAR RaceView mobile on my cell phone, and like I was telling Dan, well, I can listen to the MRN network, I can watch the drivers, I can hear the drivers talk to the crew chiefs. I see what I see on TV in a lot of ways. with the decline in viewership, do you think there could be some correlation? Look, or if NASCAR is going, we might be losing some viewership, but we're getting our point across other forms of social media.
Well, sure. I mean, if people are watching it or just following stats or radio on either NASCAR's website or one of their apps, yeah, sure. Now, some of Nielsen does take into account actual streaming of events if the event was actually streamed. Now, of course, the NASCAR race on Sunday was not streamed anywhere, so except for maybe a little bit on Fox Sports Go, but beyond that, you're not going to, that doesn't have, there's not enough yet there to make a big impact. But yes, certainly fans are getting their information in different ways, but and that's fine in the sense of hey, people are still interested, but of course you want people watching the telecast because advertisers who often are sponsors of either tracks or teams want those ratings to be high if they're going to advertise on those telecasts.
Do you think this is something that Fox needs to start to pay attention to and maybe make some changes as the season goes on, or are we just kind of freaking out about a percentage drop that's really not that big of a deal?
Well, I mean, I think anytime there's a drop, you got to be a little bit concerned. But I think they'll look at the season as a whole. They'll look at does this new chase format build any excitement, and what does it do for ESPN's ratings the second half of the season? I don't think anybody's going to make any sort of decisions just after 5 weeks.
Bob Pockrass of The Sporting News. You can find all of his articles on thesportingnews.com. I was kind of interested to see your article from, looked like last Friday, March 21st, that your Sporting News company did a poll of most liked announcers and most disliked announcers, I guess, for kind of a lack of a better term.
We said best and worst. So. I think you're being nicer.
Putting it a little bit, yeah. You guys are putting it a little bit nicer than I was. I've had my frustration with Fox's broadcast. Do you think maybe it's that there's one thing you can point at?
I don't know whether you would say that. I mean, obviously Fox, when we asked the fans which one they preferred the most, Fox was far and away the one that they preferred the most. But they also had a couple of probably the most both the wall trips are very much either well liked or, as you put, well disliked. So, but how many people really actually will not watch a race because they dislike the announcers? If anything, they'll just turn off the TV and turn on the radio, I would think. But it's an interesting survey. We still have we still have the results posted on sportingnews.com. We even included some of the fans' comments, the ones we could print. We included those with, some of the results that we got.
Do you think some of the is it possible that some of the decline in the viewership could actually be traced back to the drivers themselves? It's no old news, the incident with you and Kurt Busch. You got the Jimmy Johnson syndrome. Everybody's going, well, he's going to be up front. There's no news there. Harvick, first 3 or 4 weeks out this year, he's running up front. No news there. Can you go back to where, or can you actually say that some of these drivers' actions and already been able to predict what's going on, that could decline?
I'd really be hard-pressed to say that. I wonder all the time why Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon and Rusty Wallace battling for championships resonates more than some of the great title races we've had recently, between Johnson and Hamlin, or Johnson and Harvick and Keselowski. It does seem that in the past the drivers have, or at least the championship battles have resonated more. I think it just goes back possibly more to that back in the day when the Nationwide Series would run at like a Hickory, you'd have the Hickory track champion be able to get a car and be able to race there. And if he did real well, he'd probably get a nationwide ride. And you'd have all these fans, who watched this driver working their way up. And so the driver, by the time they get the Cup, already has a pretty solid fan base. And I think a lot of these guys, a lot of them don't have as big a fan base when they get the Cup, and it just doesn't seem to resonate as much, I think, sometimes with the fans.
Let me ask you this. You just mentioned about these drivers having to work up back in the day. What is your opinion on some of these Cup guys that step down to run nationwide? Do you think that's good for the nationwide, or do you think we need to let some of the up-and-comers step up to nationwide and try to make their way to Sprint Cup?
Well, I think it's kind of twofold. It's great for them to be able to race against the Cup drivers, but the problem is that if you're a sponsor and you want to sponsor a guy, you want to sponsor somebody who wins. And when the Cup guys are winning all the time, that takes away opportunities from nationwide guys. What I would like to see is for them to cap the Cup guys to 7 to 10 nationwide races, but say you can run 15 or maybe 18 even if that car runs the full season and the remainder of the races are all run by a nationwide regular. And in that way, you would give a sponsor incentive to sponsor a car for at least half the season with a Cup guy, and then they probably could get the other half pretty darn cheap because won't be certainly not as big a cost for a development driver to put in there the rest of the time. And I think that's the key. The key is that you want to create opportunity. The Nationwide Series is about creating opportunities for young drivers, and while they do get the opportunity to learn, I think the abundance of the Cup drivers and the abundance of them winning and the fact that it seems that money means more speed in nationwide than it does in neither Cup or truck really tends to limit the development opportunities of a lot of guys in nationwide.
We're talking with Bob Pockrass of the Sporting News. SportingNews.com is where you can find a lot of Bob's articles. You do a fantastic job covering NASCAR and having a very objective look at how things roll on the field rather than just laying towards one side to appease maybe the NASCAR world. What stories are you working on for the next couple of weeks? Maybe you can give us a little bit of a hint and we can head over to SportingNews.com and check them out.
Well, we just did post a story today that's a little bit different about development drivers, and I kind of looked at Landon Castle, Michael McDowell, and Josh Wise. And, in 2008, those were, they all had development contracts with big teams, and they were guys that people were saying, these are going to be the next stars in Cup, and so kind of what happened, and to look at why, they went back and start and parked and why they're still even at it, and even a little bit of Landon Castle. We have details on his on how much he got paid throughout his development career from 2008 to 2012. So you can kind of take a look at that and kind of see, hey, when you look at a guy who won a bunch of races at age 16 in Iowa and would really be considered probably like a first-round draft pick compared to in baseball, and compared to his ride compared to what maybe somebody in baseball might or somebody in another sport might. It's pretty interesting look. Now, when you look ahead, I think, when you look at Martinsville, we're all going to be talking about Denny Hamlin and how is his eye, now that we found out that he had a piece of metal removed from his eye on Sunday and he's been okay to race. And then going into Texas, I think the talk will be, about tires and if we can expect more blowouts of the sidewalls.
Oh, we're not done talking about tires?
You never, what? Those are the four things that, those are the only things touching the ground typically for a race car. And so you're never done talking about tires. Unfortunately, you can't talk to tires.
Bob Pockrass of the Sporting News. Bob, we really do appreciate your time and, frankly, bringing a little legitimacy to our show for once.
Well, thanks for having me on.
All right, have a good one. Thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was kind of exciting.
Boy, we're getting big time when we got SportingNews.com and Bob Pockrass on the front stretch.
I tell you, that was interesting insight. It's no secret. I've been very critical of Fox, and I was surprised to hear him say that Fox was one of the more preferred broadcast partners when it comes to NASCAR broadcasts between what is now Fox, TNT, and ESPN. ESPN leaving at the end of the year and NBC Sports picking it up. But I just want to point out one more time that 3 different times during the Auto Club broadcast, they tried to miss a lead change. But because of timely cautions and, them pesky tires, they weren't able to, there wasn't a lead change. But
you mean there was problems with the tires?
Yeah. I got to think, listen, we're going to get into turn number 4 here on the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he is talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into Turn 4 on the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 4. Brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Oh, I love me some Quaker Steak and Lube. All the green flag action for Martinsville Speedway will be on the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube at noon today. Get down to the lube and enjoy yourself some frosty cold ones and some of the best wings the Midwest has to offer. Quick recap of the Pick'ems contest. Monty Oman, 210 points, has the sole ownership of first place.
I want to bring him in here and see what his strategy is.
I think we need to, because this guy has absolutely been whomping everybody. His worst pick was at Vegas, I believe. No, was at Bristol. He took Matt Kenseth, only received 33 points.
But with all the other listeners out there listening that's playing the Pick'ems, I want to go into why that might hurt him being in the lead like he is right now.
Well, let's go into it. I want to stress one rule that bit two people in the butt this week. Once again, you cannot pick the same driver twice within 2 weeks, or 5 weeks. We do that so that you can't just sit there and pick Johnson every week or Kyle Busch every week. You got to change it up a little bit.
There's some strategy involved.
And the hardest rule that we came up with last year is you can only pick the same driver twice. And we do this again because if you pick the same driver twice, that only gets you 20 races. You've got to pick if you only pick top 10 drivers twice, that only gives you 20 races. Then you got to get outside your comfort zone and you got to find 16 other drivers or 8 other drivers to pick twice.
And pray to God they do good.
I am telling you right now, your key strategy to winning this thing is to hold off on picking the top 10 drivers until we get into the chase. Pick them once, but then wait and then pick them again during the chase. That's your best strategy to winning
Monty's
this thing.
up there picking all these big drivers, and here I am down in 20th. And have I really picked a top-tier podium driver?
You've taken Larson, Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, Clint Boyer, and Joey Logano. I think you've picked good. I don't think you definitely haven't picked your upper echelon drivers yet. That your Kyle Busch, your
Kurt Busch, Jimmy Johnson.
Well, you did take Kurt Busch,
Jimmy Johnson,
Kevin Harvick,
Jeff Gordon.
You haven't picked a lot of those guys. So I think even though you're way in the back, you're 20th right now.
I'm the dark horse.
Yeah, I think you're going to jump up. You keep sending me colorful language every Sunday after the race is over with, because now 4 out of the 5 weekends you've had single-digit points payouts.
You know, and I didn't really buy into your Bud curse, but when I started looking at what everybody else picked at Auto Club and I see the Logano's, I was like, oh, Bud's not going to be well liked this week.
Monty Oman, Mike Carlson, Sonia Worth, David Ackerson, and Teresa Wolf, then David Ackerson are your top 5 in the Pick'ems contest. Martinsville Speedway, as far as today is concerned, your top drivers: Jimmy Johnson is the highest rated, next to Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, Dale Jr., Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, and Jeff Burton, who obviously isn't driving anymore, so then Ryan Newman would jump up, are your top 10 rated drivers at Martinsville Speedway. I got to feel like either Jimmy or Jeff are probably your best pick, or even Dale. You know what? Just go with a Hendrick driver. Casey Kane, I think, finished second last year. Just stick with Hendrick as far as Martinsville's concerned.
We're 36 races into the season? 36 races.
Wait, are you drunk? Have you been drinking since we went to commercial break? We're 6 races into the season.
I'm saying 36 races for the season.
Yeah.
And we're going into our 6th race. Are you drunk?
Yeah. You said we're 36 races into the season.
So with that being said, I'm starting to wonder when does Buddy Ray start pulling out the upper echelon drivers?
I'm kind of wondering too. At some point in time, you got to start getting points.
Yeah. Well, at least getting double. I mean, if I get 10 points right now, I'm doing good that week.
Speaking of the Pick'ems contest, the winner of the 5-week contest, every 5 weeks we're going to give away a different prize pack. And frankly, we don't know what that is because we're still working on it. We have the next one lined up, but the last one was a 4-pack of Thunder and Fire exhibition show tickets at Mid-America Motorplex on July 12th, and 4 T-shirts from Mid-America Motorplex.
You've got that set up with Jim Howell?
Yep. Monty Oman was the winner of that since he was the leader of the points contest after 5 weeks.
I've got a feeling I think we got something really good for the next 5 week.
Our prizes just keep getting better and better, and we're kind of setting the bar high, aren't we, buddy?
I'm kind of wondering, it's kind of like the Legends of the Dirt. We did that the first year. I'm like, how in the world are we going to top that?
And then we topped it, and now we got to top it again. We're kind of screwing ourselves
I'm
here.
telling you.
All right, here's the contest. The next 5-week series. Martinsville, Texas, Darlington, Richmond, and Talladega. That's the next 5 NASCAR Pick'ems contest weeks.
You have to play along.
We have 3 pairs of tickets we're going to give away to 3 different winners for Iowa Speedway's race.
Well, potentially 3 winners. I mean, if Monty keeps going, he could win 2 pairs.
For the NASCAR Nationwide Series and the NASCAR K&N Series at Iowa Speedway, May 17th and 18th, which, by the way, we'll be there. I'll be there broadcasting live. You're going to be racing, so you won't be able to be there, but you're going to check in with us. Anyways, here's the way it works. 1 pair is going to go to the person who is leading in the Pick'ems contest overall following Talladega's race results. Pair number 2 is going to go to the person that has the best 5-week run between Martinsville and Talladega. So the next 5 races, whoever has the best cumulative points after those 5 races, then the final pair of tickets is going to go to the person with the worst 5-week results, barring Buddy because he can't win any of the prizes. But again, you must pick every single week to win the final pair of tickets. So the person who has the best, who is leading in the Pick'ems contest after Talladega, the person who has the best points results, accumulative points results between Martinsville and Talladega, and the person who has the worst accumulative points results between Martinsville and Talladega. And again, the worst, you have to pick all 5 races. So that's what we have lined up for you. Make sure to get your picks in by noon today, as that will be when the green flag waves and the Pick'ems contest is locked out. Thank you so much for listening to us today. Buddy, have a good weekend.
You too, man.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This has been The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This week's young gun on The Front Stretch is 9-year-old Cadence Davenport from Madrid, Iowa. Cadence started racing in 2011 at the age of 6 in the putt-putt class and moved up to Junior 1 at the end of 2012. Cadence was asked to run 2-cycle nationals this year by engine builder Larry Killiam. Right now, Cadence races asphalt, Coke syrup, and dirt tracks with the dream of making it up to NASCAR so she can be the first woman to win the Daytona 500. In 2012, Cadence took first place at the Battle of the Barn. She swept all 3 days of the Turkey Chase and was points champion at Jamaica Raceway. Cadence defended her track championship in 2013 at Jamaica, as well as adding a track championship from Newton Kart Club. Make sure to keep your eyes out for Cadence Davenport. She's this week's young gun on The Front Stretch.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube has been voted festival favorite once again at the National Buffalo Wing Festival. Visit Quaker Steak and Lube for our Best Wings USA, sauced your way.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
For 50 years, Eagle Raceway has been pushing the limits of dirt track racing. Saturday nights, come see the Midwest's best battle at the fastest third-mile track. Gates open at 5:30 for IMCA Modifieds, Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, Sport Mods, and Race Saver Sprint Cars. Eagle kicks their season off on April 19th with the Icebreaker Challenge, featuring the debut of the Race Saver Sprint Cars. Located just 10 minutes east of Lincoln on Highway 34 and online at eagleraceway.com.